Well, I am here with my good longtime friend, Clint Lawson. And I think there are a lot of you out there that don't know Clint's story. Clint has an amazing journey that he has been on with God. And I've asked him to share this as part of our Choose Your Hard series. And so, Clint, tell us about your life.
Well, I'm married. Been married for 7 years. Have 4 girls between the two of us. All of them. Youngest is 21, 2 25s, a 22. Have 2 grandkids, 6 months old, and a 7-year-old. Or excuse me, almost 5-year-old. Almost 5-year-old. But that's basically us. We love to travel. We love to eat out.
You're in a good place in life, aren't you?
We are. We are.
Hasn't always been that way, has it?
It has not.
Tell us about that. Tell us about, because I know your story, and it's an incredible story. But tell the people out there about what God brought you from.
So when I was in high school, we went to church. I was saved at a young age. I got involved in alcohol. Alcohol was not a huge struggle for me, but I enjoyed the party scene of it. I enjoyed just being able to be with people. But as a senior, I tried drugs for the first time. I tried marijuana. Marijuana wasn't a big thing for me. I didn't like it. It wasn't anything. But then one time we went to a party, a club, and I tried cocaine for the first time. And it was a drug that I remember going, I'll never use this again because I know it'll take control of my life. Mm-hmm. From there, I went off to college, played some.
So let me pause you for a second there, because I've had some people describe that experience for me. Tell me the difference it made in Clint Lawson.
It's almost like a hunger inside your stomach that you're going, I got to have this. It is something that you knew that if you took another one, that it was going to grab a hold of you and was not going to let go.
So when you took it, how did you feel? Because I have people in my family who've struggled, and the phrase I'll never forget is, I was the best version of me.
I don't know that I could say that, because we were at a club, we were partying and everything, and it just was another additive. It just was one of those things, it makes you feel really good. I mean, it numbs you up. It makes you feel like you're on cloud 9, but it is not. It was the coming down that I knew it was going to be the struggle. It made you feel great, but when you're coming down, it's like you hunger for it. I mean, absolutely,
because you want that feeling.
You want that feeling again.
Okay.
You do. Went off to college, played some college soccer for a year, drank my way out of a college scholarship, came back down here.
What college did you go to?
I went to Kansas Newman up in Wichita.
Okay.
We were a good school. I think we were top 10 in the nation whenever I was there. Didn't play a lot of varsity, but captained our JV team. So it was fun, but it was also a little too much fun outside of school. So came back here, quit going to college up there, went to Rose State, went to OCCC, played some junior college soccer, started working at a restaurant. And from there, found other drugs because I wasn't playing soccer. So I was like, okay, well, we're drinking, but let's also add the marijuana in. Let's also add pills. Let's add some ecstasy. Let's add some hallucinogens. And so I tried all those different things. The only drug that I stayed away from was cocaine. And I said I would never do it again. Got arrested and had some scales, had some baggies in my car, and really and truly got just a slap on the wrist. Hey, here's a deferred sentence. Don't do it again. And so I went back home and stayed there for a little while. But being 21, you don't want to live at home. And
right.
So went and started living in an apartment, working again at a restaurant, and started using more drugs again. Went to another party, and I'll never forget this. Said, hey, come back here and try this. And it was cocaine. And it was the drug I said I never would use again, and I did. And it led down to an extremely dark road, staying up for weeks at a time.
Okay. Wow.
Where it was, would take enough pills to where I could sleep. And I'd sleep for a couple of days, but as soon as I woke up, I had to have another line. Was sticking up about 1/4 ounce of cocaine up my nose a night. I don't know what street value of that is now. At that time, it was $750 about every night.
And where are you getting this money?
Selling drugs.
Okay.
And so I started, and sorry, forgot about that. See, not forgot about it, but didn't mention that. I sold drugs so I could support my
Fund your drug habit.
Yeah. And all the other drugs were just I don't want to say fun drugs, but they were just party drugs. Cocaine was the one that just got a hold of me.
Yeah.
And I couldn't,
Wow.
and it couldn't let me go.
So there's, in a church our size, there are people dealing with everything, but one of our guys who really struggled and got in trouble and came and talked to me, and his similar parallel path to yours, he's married now and life is good, but was bad, would drink and then use cocaine in the morning to have to get up. Because from just not having anything left in you. And I didn't even realize how common of an addiction that parallel thing is that I party all night, got to use the cocaine to get up, and then you get on that cycle and you can't get off of it.
Yeah, because cocaine, it's got a little bit of speed in it also. So it gives you that rush to where you can stay up for weeks at a time.
Wow.
And I can remember going through those times and being up for a week and listen, crying out to God, God help me. I can't do this. I need you. And God would always give me a way out, and I would take it maybe for a minute. Yeah. And then go right back to it. The day that I was really arrested, we had a bunch of cocaine on the way over. It was a quarter kilo, and we were part of a sting operation, and the sting operation got there about 2 hours before that got there. If not, I probably would be in prison still.
Okay. Wow.
But got arrested, went into the county jail. I'm laying on the county jail floor, haven't used drugs in, 10 hours, something like that. And I remember I started just reading everything I could, Bible-wise. And I remember God just kind of speaking to me and saying, hey, I've been your Savior, but when are you going to make me Lord? And it's either you're done with this or you're dead.
So that's the moment you had to choose your heart.
I did. You're
You're either dead or you're going to follow me.
Exactly. And listen, I was running around with a gang at that time. And listen, you can go on and find them as Southside Locos. You can go gangland. They were top 5 most dangerous gangs in America.
You told me a story once of a guy holding a gun to your head.
I did. It was probably about a week before I got arrested. Guy came into our apartment, put a gun to my head and said, "Oh, that you owe me money." And I said, "I don't. Get out of my house." And there was no fear there.
Right.
Because of the drugs. But when God got a hold of me, there was a fear there. It was, I'm dead, I'm going home, or I'm changing my life right now. So,
Wow. So let's pick up there. So you're in jail, you're reading the Bible, God's spoken to you, you make a hard choice.
Yes.
And how does life look after that?
So I get out of the county jail. I start going through the court system, started going to church. Gave up every drug, every drinking, didn't have any desire for any of it. And I start going through the court system. I'm there for probably a month and a half. And I go to court and they say, hey, here's what we're offering. And it was 25 to life. And I said, oh, that's a long time. And I remember my attorney was a good Christian guy. He looked at me and he said, hey, I'm not going to tell you again until I get it down where I think it needs to be. So I went through the court system for about 9 months. Oldest daughter was born during that time. And once she was born in January. We went to court in probably about February. And the court said, hey, we're offering you 4 7s. They'll run concurrent. Probably about 5.5 years is what you'll serve. That's probably the best we're going to do. And I said, okay. My attorney said, hey, we got to take it. And so we did.
So you have a 1-month-old baby. You're offering you 5.5 years prison time.
They are. We agreed with them, but we asked for 2 months before I had to surrender to the courts. And so about March, April, maybe it was April, I surrendered to the courts. Went through all the processing through Lexington and everything. Everyone tells me, hey, you don't want to go to Wackenhut down in Lawton. It's the worst place you'll ever go. There's stabbings every single day, and that's where I end up going.
You end up, yeah.
But it worked out. And again, God.
But you're following God in all this.
Following God, reading everything I can, requesting Bible studies and everything, and wherever I go. And I still have that Bible, and I should have brought it, but it's a paperback Bible that someone gave me in prison, and it is just falling apart.
Wow.
Because listen, I read through the Old Testament. I read through the entire Bible 3 times in a year and a half. Read through the New Testament probably 10, 15 times in a year and a half.
Just absorbed
anything I could. Every Bible study, I do 10 Bible studies a day. Because, when we get out here, a minute, it seems like it goes by so quick. When you're in prison, a minute is a minute. You're there. You're not going anywhere. It's not like you have to go to the ball field. It's not like you have to. It's not like you have to go anywhere.
Yeah.
You're there. You're not going anywhere. You're not going outside that first place. You are in your cell or in the pod. And listen, the pod's not the place to be because they're fighting over whether we're going to watch a WWF wrestling or football.
Right.
And it's not, let me argue with me. Let's go into a cell and we're going to fight this out.
Yeah.
And so I don't want anything to do with that.
I'll read my Bible.
Yeah, I'll read my Bible. But, it was one of those things where I just kept doing it. I was not supposed to come up for parole anytime soon. But God kept speaking to my heart. He said, hey, listen, if you'll be faithful, I'm always faithful. And so I kept reading. He goes, you're going to be home by your little girl's second birthday. And I said, nah, there's no way. And I talked to other people. I talked to case managers and they say, there's no way. You're not even coming up for parole during that time. Governor Keating was in the office or in office at that time, and he didn't even sign paroles. And I said, well, I don't know. That's just what God keeps speaking to me. That if I'll be faithful, he'll return that. And so I kept reading, kept doing what I needed to do. Spent a year in a drug and alcohol treatment center there in Wackenhut. From there, went to a minimum security. I'm sorry, back up just a second. Right before that year was up, I came up for parole.
Wow.
Faster than anyone else around me that had that same sentence. And I was like, hey, it's God. It's God. There's nothing else. But even then I was like, I'm not going to get it.
Yeah, for them to say yes was a long shot. Yeah.
Got recommended. And so that means it goes to the governor's office. After it goes to the governor's office, you got 30 days before he'll either sign it or decline it. And I was like, well, okay. And so they shipped me off to a minimum security prison. And I'm there for probably about 5 months. 4 or 5 months. We're right in there, and I'm working outside. I mean, they got us on the warden's crew. We're building things. We're doing everything. As you know, I'm not real handy. So, listen, I'm just following these guys around. I mean, they're bricklayers. They're everything. They're doing everything. And I'll never forget, we're out in Hominy, Oklahoma, and the guard who was over us said, hey, I need to talk to you for a second. I said, okay. And he goes, hey, your case manager called, and there's a good chance you're going home today or tomorrow. And I said, no. I said, I know. Yeah. My family calls every day to see if my paperwork's even made it there. Hadn't made it there. He goes, man, I don't know. We're going home early. I said, okay. So we get there, and I go talk to my case manager, and she says, no, there's a good chance you might, but you need to call your family just in case and see if you got it right. And I said, well, whatever. So I go and I call my family, and they're not supposed to be home. They're at work or whatever, and they're home. They said, you're coming home today.
Wow.
And I said, there's no way. And so, I'm just crying. Because I'd been about October. Aubrey turned 2 in January. And so, again, God's faithfulness.
Wow.
And so we sit, and I have to go through all the things. I mean, I have to make sure I didn't get any tattoos while I'm in prison. Well, listen, I never got one before. I'm not getting one now. Right. Just because, listen, those guys, they clean it in the toilet. I'm not doing that. But, I'm sitting there. And so finally I go to my bunk because it's lockdown time. They got to count us. And I'm like, well, maybe I am going home today or tomorrow. And about after count, they call me back in. They send me over to the maximum security side to wait for my ride. And I go home that day.
Wow.
Absolutely amazing to see that opportunity.
Hand of God.
Yeah, and it was. I mean, and it was crazy. I could go back and read the letters that were leading up to it, and people were, it was like God was speaking through those letters saying, you're coming home, you're coming home. And you always saw that.
Right.
But the week before I went, as I'm reading those letters, they're telling me I'm going home. Aubrey would come visit me, and the second place I was at had a playground. All these things. And I'd always ask her, hey, do you want Daddy to come home? No, I like visiting you here. And I was like, whatever. But the week before I went home, I asked her, and she said, yeah, I'm ready. And again, not knowing anything was going to happen. So I took the 2 hours home from Hominy. I come home, go through my parents' front door, and Aubrey is in the cabinet. She says, my daddy's home.
Oh, wow.
And it was,
it's big.
It was.
Yeah.
It was huge.
Yeah.
So, and again, it just was it was great to see the hand of God. Was it hard going through it? It's always hard going through it. But again, like you said, I had to choose my heart.
Right.
It's either death or how you get right with God.
Well, Old Testament, choose life, choose me.
Yep.
It's for me and my house.
Yeah.
We'll serve the Lord.
That's right. That's right. So it was good to see. It was really good to see.
So we're going to fast forward a little bit, right? So your brother's got a restaurant, still got a restaurant. Where'd you go to work?
So I went to work at Midwest Trophy. Midwest Trophy, I worked for a great guy. And we kind of worked off-site, polishing metals. I mean, I still got scars all over my hands from when you slip off those sanders and they rip through all those gloves and rip through your hand. And I was like, okay, and was there for probably about a year. Gave my testimony at a church, and a guy comes to me and he says, hey, I want you to come do human resources for me. I have a home health care agency. And I said, okay, sure. Went and did that for about 5 years. Of course, big pay increase,
right.
from working at Midwest Trophy. And I was like, okay, this is great. From there, felt like God was calling me into the ministry. And so did 7 years at one church and did 6 years here.
Right.
And so enjoyed ministry. Man, I mean, you can't
right.
give up ministry. It's wonderful.
Still teaching here today.
Yeah, still teaching here. I tell all the time, I used to tell people, Natalie was one of the best hires we ever made. And now I get to work for her.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
It's
cool.
fun.
That's cool, brother. Hey, if you could look out there at a man or a woman who's struggling where you were, what would you say?
You got to have God. Without Him, there's no way out. You can become a dry drunk. You can become a sober, halfway addict. But all of those things won't matter unless you've got God in your life. And it's not a higher power. It's not AA. It's you've got to have God who sent His only Son Jesus to die for your sins. That's the God that you have to have. You can't have whatever you want to call a higher power and hope it gives you the strength, hope it gives you what you need to quit using drugs, quit using alcohol. It's got to be God, and it's got to be the only one true God. And then I would say also, you got to have a church family. You got to have a family that's going to support you, but you got to have a church family because they'll be there, and you got to be upfront with those things. You got to be open and honest about it. Whether you want to halfway kid around about it or whether you want to be real serious about it, there's times for both of them. But you've got to be sure that you are connected, because if not, if you're by yourself, there's a chance, that you can get right back into it.
Job lost a lot, and for a long time, and it looked like he wouldn't get it back. But at the end of his story, two things of significance. He said, I've heard of you with the hearing of my ear, but after going through this, I've seen you with my eyes. And then the scripture says that God restored unto him sevenfold everything. You lost a lot through the years, but I look at where you are now and the life you get to live now, and God has restored to you many times over.
Over and over.
Love you, bud.
Love you too.
Thank you, guys.